Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. On today's episode of me talking about 7 things, I'm going to be going over Mayan blue sacrifice, or Mayan red body juice sacrifice, because I don't think I can say the other word on YouTube. Before I continue, in the description below there are some links. Please check those out if you have not already. Now, this episode we are in the Yucatan Peninsula, specifically Chemuil, Mexico, Chemuyil, Mexico. There is a lot of mention of Mayan history, and there are high temperatures and humidity. Now, on to our survivalists. We have Sean, brother to Chad. Chad was in the Toxic Redemption episode, and he was also on the season previously, but unfortunately Chad tapped both times. Sean is Canadian, was in the military, and is partnered with Noah. He mentions Chad a lot throughout the episode, and Sean thinks he can make it through this challenge. He brings paracord and his PSR starts at 6.9. Now we are on to Julian, who is bitten, stung, and cut throughout this entire challenge. Also, there are spoilers in this video. I apologize if you didn't know that Julian is bitten, stung, and cut throughout the episode. And fortunately, Julian toughs it out. Good for him. He has a irregular heartbeat, and that unfortunately disqualified him from being a Green Beret, and that was a dream that he had. He is partnered with Stephanie. He brings a knife, and his PSR is a 6.4. Now we are into Stephanie, who is good at hunting, trapping, fishing, and foraging. She was trained by her father and wants to prove that she isn't soft like he says she is. She brings fishing line and hooks, and her PSR is a 6.2. Noah is fun. She is partnered with Sean. She has a machete. She wants to connect to the natural world and loves being outside, and her starting PSR is 5.6. And for a first for the show, the survivalists are given a pot, a fire starter, and a bug net because there are record numbers of mosquitoes. And I wish that on XL8 they would have given the survivalists mosquito nets to help them out, but luckily they're helping these survivalists here. And so I think they're set up for success, and we shall see how this goes. The group starts off 5 miles from each other and are to merge on day 11. They trek to separate ponds and will be tasked with merging at a cenote if they are to make it to merge. There's lots of twisting camera angles to give an unsettling feel because they want to bring up the Mayan history of the location. And Julian is feeling nauseous almost right away but pushes through. Sean begins work on a shelter while Noah works on fire. Lots of mention of mosquitoes. Julian and Stephanie clear an area and gather firewood for a shelter and fire. Noah successfully gets the fire. The groups don't seem to struggle with fire at all throughout the challenge despite the high humidity, and I wish that they told us how they're able to do that because a lot of individuals in the past are talking about how humid it is and how wet everything is and how they're not able to get a fire, but the group seemed to get it just fine. Stephanie and Julian aren't able to get a shelter on day 1 and focus on fire and hanging their bug net. Sean gets a platform ready and they have a roof. Stephanie and Julian get a fire and Julian unfortunately throws up. Noah and Sean have a nice night one with minimal bugs while the other group is swarmed. Day 2, Julian and Stephanie got a lot of bug bites during the night. Noah and Sean get great sleep and they prepare their shelter for potential rain. The groups are working really well together so far. Noah and Sean are BFFs right away, it seems. And Stephanie and Julian are working together great, but they're a little miserable at the moment. But Julian and Stephanie mud up to try to prevent bug bites, and they begin working on their shelter. Stephanie is very knowledgeable, and Julian listens to her advice while she takes the lead, and he doesn't have an ego about it. She just says, hey, I think this would be a good idea, and he's like, okay, I'll do that, and so that works out really great. Noah sees a tarantula and gets it as a snack for her and Sean. Night 2, and Stephanie and Julian have a better setup and a bug-free night. Day 3, Julian and Stephanie got great sleep and are on the lookout for food. They find palms for their shelter, and unfortunately Julian gets stung by wasp on his face and wrist, and he chucked his knife, but he finds it, so it's fine. Day 4, Noah's having her time of the month and doesn't feel great. Sean is being very supportive, and yes, to those wondering, female survivalists are offered feminine hygiene products during the challenge if they have their time of the month, but I do not know if birth control is allowed. Day 5, Sean begins work on a fish net. He mentions his brother and how the challenge is physically, mentally, and emotionally taxing. Noah begins work on a fish trap. Day 6, Stephanie mentions a lack of protein. She spots a lizard and fortunately is able to grab it. Julian dispatches it and the two eat. Noah completed the fish basket and places it in the water. Day 7, Noah and Sean mention food. Noah has her moment that we saw in a trailer where she goes, everything that moves needs to be food. Hey, little jungle, some food would be good. Noah's fun. I enjoy her personality. She seems like a fun time. And unfortunately, the fish trap is empty. And I hope Noah makes a full length song of the Everything That Moves Needs to Be Food. I would definitely buy it on iTunes. Day 8, Noah is on the hunt for animals to eat. She spots a coral snake and Sean comes to help. He unfortunately forgets the knife and he is able to pin it down but is unable to dispatch it with the knife after Noah brings it to him and it seems to have gotten away and Sean is really upset about it. Day 9, it rains. Sean and Noah huddle near the fire outside their shelter, but are later on seen inside their shelter as night comes. And Julian and Stephanie are also huddled in their shelter as the rain continues. Day 10, it stops raining. One day to merge. Noah and Sean mention food, and Sean goes scavenging. And luckily, he finds a frog underneath a rock. Stephanie and Julian had a cold night. Julian goes to get firewood and cuts his thumb really bad. He nearly takes the thumbprint right off, and the medic is called. And there's a lot of red body juices around, and Julian is told that he can't get stitches and there needs to be a compression bandage, and Julian is taking it like a champ. He is kind of sitting there with the minimal reaction and he is able to tough it out, and he's a very, very tough individual. Nothing really phases him during the challenge, even though he's, cut, stung, and injured and get sick, but he's taking it in stride and he's fine. He knows his limits. Day 11, and it is merge day, and everyone is tasked with going to a cenote 3 miles away. And unfortunately, before they merge, Julian and Stephanie get lost and end up at Sean and Noah's camp, but they redirect and luckily they're able to get there. During that time, Stephanie is really upset, but Julian is there to emotionally support her and they continue onwards. And there's mention that Mayans believe cenotes were portals to the underworld and they use them for freshwater and for human sacrifices. The group ends up at Laguna Madero. There are crocodiles in the cenote, and the group discusses getting food and then begin making their shelter. And then Sean and Julian are like, oh, thank goodness the other is here. Oh, Julian is so strong. Oh, Sean is such a take charge kind of guy. I'm so glad this guy is here. You go, guy. Now you go, guy. You go, guy. And Noah and Stephanie are like, yay, female partner. This is great. Cool. Great partnerships all around. Everyone gets along great. I think that the casting for this episode was really, really good. They have a nice gazebo in place with a nice floor mat, and they have a roof, but it's not really covered, but they're able to hang up their bug nets, and it rains during the night. It is very cold, but everyone seems to be in good spirits. Day 12, and Sean checks the fish trap, and unfortunately it is empty, and he uses this net and gets 4 fish for the group, and that helps boost morale. The group then works on improving their shelter. They have a raised platform and a nice roof. Sean is a good leader, and Julian did a lot of heavy lifting, but during the night there's a lot of mosquitoes, and day 13 comes around and everyone is tired after a sleepless night, and Julian seems to have a fever and lots of body aches. Sean is an ex-paramedic and checks on Julian's condition, and he finds that they most likely need to call a medic. Julian has a fever, body aches, and a high heart rate. The field medic comes in to check on Julian's condition. He might have dengue fever or heat stroke is what the medic tells producers, and he will be closely monitored, and if his condition worsens, he will be med-tapped for the challenge, and he's told to drink water and rest. Day 14, and food is mentioned. Julian is resting, Noah stays back to look after him, and Sean and Stephanie go fishing. Day 15, Julian is still resting, and there's mention that they all need food. Day 17, the hunt for food continues. Sean and Stephanie continue to forage. Sean sees an egg, but while cooking it, it explodes in the pot and it's really green, and so they're unable to eat it. Stephanie is upset about the lack of food, and around halfway to near the end, we hear her kind of talking like she's about to tap because emotionally she's just drained by the situation and lack of food. Day 19, and Julian is resting while Sean and Stephanie go exploring some more. They spot a nest, and Sean chops down the tree that the nest is in, and then there's a commercial break, and then there's the survival kit where Julian gets bit on a sensitive part of his body by an ant, and he has a funny accent afterwards because, turning pain into humor is the best. And we go back and Stephanie checks the nest, but there's no eggs in it, unfortunately. And Stephanie is worried that she might not make it. But day 20, she gets another lizard. she got one early in the challenge, and now she gets a second lizard. She catches a lizard with her bare hands, and the lizard has 9 eggs in it, and so the group was able to get some protein, and so they have a good amount of energy for their trek out of there. Day 21, and it is time for extraction. They're all tired, but they push through. After a few hours, they make it to the road that they're supposed to go to and are successfully extracted from the challenge. Hooray! Congrats to Sean, Noah, Stephanie, and Julian. They all completed the challenge. Julian loses 30 pounds and his PSR goes from 6.4 to 6.7. Noah lost 22 pounds and her PSR goes from 5.6 to 5.9. Stephanie loses 21 pounds and her PSR goes from 6.2 to 6.8. And one of my favorite parts of the episode where she's like, you know what, women may be soft, but they're also bad B words. And I'm like, yes, Stephanie, you go. And Sean loses 23 pounds and his PSR goes from 6.9 to 7.6. So he and Stephanie had a higher increase in their PSRs, her by 0.6, him by 0.7. And Julian and Noah, unfortunately, did not get a lot of increase in their PSR, but they both did really well, and Julian knew his limits, and Noah did great supporting him. And I thought this was a great episode overall. Honestly, one of my favorite of the season. Probably second to Ernie's episode, Couch to Cave, because Ernie's my favorite, and he's the best. And no offense, everyone else. And everyone seemed to get along really well, and I was correct in saying they all make it. So yay, some of my predictions that I'm making are coming true. I'm getting an inflated ego, and I'm going to be so wrong in the future, but as of right now, I was right in saying they all make it. Congratulations to them. And near the end, after Julian got sick, the episode mainly focused on Sean trying to rally the group and get food and raise everyone's spirits, and it also focused on Stephanie's journey from almost wanting to tap to being the one to get a nice protein score near the end. And I hope we can see them all back for more challenges. I think that they would all do great on an XL or a solo challenge, or I think that if I had to choose one to be on a last one standing, I would rank them probably Sean, Stephanie, and Julian and Noah are kind of tied for third for me, but I think that they could all come back. I think they're great personalities, great attitudes, very knowledgeable, no egos, and I think that Julian was super tough despite the pain, and he was willing to listen to the others and help out, and he didn't have an ego, plus he knew what he had to do to stay in the challenge. I guess a lot of men have overworked themselves during the challenge and end up tapping because they get so tired they're not really able to do much and don't want to rest and rather leave than rest, and Julian rested and he completed the challenge. And Stephanie is incredibly knowledgeable. She had some low moments, but she was able to stick it out and stay throughout the entire challenge. I think that she could be one of the top female survivalists of the franchise, and I think she should be given more opportunities. Noah is super positive, has a great personality, and is very supportive. And I think that she would be a great partner to anybody she's partnered up with, and everyone would probably sing her praises because she's so great and fun loving and nature loving and all that good stuff. And Sean is a supportive leader, hard worker, and go-getter. I think that he could probably easily do a XL challenge and do more challenges after this. He toughed it out. He kind of rallied the group. He was a great leader and everyone respected him. And 4 great survivalists with 4 distinct personalities that overcame different obstacles, and they all were vulnerable, they were relatable. Casting did a great job. I think that people can connect with one of the survivalists. And so that is the end of the episode. And next week we have Malou, Omar, and John, and maybe a surprise survivalist joining the group, because the episode is 3 is not enough. What does that mean? I guess we'll find out next week. Thank you all so much for listening. Please like, comment nice things, and subscribe. And click on the next video if it's mine. Okay, thank you all so much. Bye-bye.